applied to the EPA for a Brownfields area-wide planning grant. That grant will not allow us to actually clean any sites, but what we're going to do is the lower Frankfort Creek from Frankfort neighborhood all the way down, and then along the North Delaware waterfront of Bridesburg, we're going to create a plan for how to use all the brownfields in that area. We're working on trying to get supplemental funds to do assessments on the Philadelphia Coke site because it's so important. And hopefully what comes out of this plan will give us sort of a roadmap ahead. Instead of just zoning parcels one thing and then the councilman comes along and zones it for something else. There's going to be a big outreach in the neighborhood. We're going to have public meetings. It's probably not going to get started until January of 2014, but it'll be like an 18-month long process. So the catalyst sites for that project, it'll focus on Roman Haas, then the Philly Coke and Bridesburg, and then up in the Frankfort neighborhood, which you didn't see today, there's an old dye works that is currently still standing, and we want to see if we could reuse the building for residential.
Globe?
Not Globe, this is a different one. But so that project is a $200,000 grant, and what that does is there's only been 23 of these area-wide plans done through the EPA, so we're like in the second round, so we're the next, there's about 20 other cities, and it puts us in line for a lot of other EPA funds for assessments and cleanups and things that you wouldn't qualify for without the plan.
From all of this industrial activity, and now people are more left with the air pollution from lots of traffic, truck traffic, because trucks are now such an important shipping technology. So they're getting the waste, they're getting the pollution, but they're not really getting the jobs or the benefits anymore. So the city is redeveloping this part of town. The city just got a grant to clean up one of the worst sites here, which is called Philadelphia Coke. So that's good, right? Philadelphia just got a bunch of money to clean up that site, which is really great. Now what I would like to see happen is for the people of this area to be able to decide what they want to see in here instead of a brownfield. I think that's important too, because redevelopment is a great goal, but it also has to be redeveloped for the use and enjoyment and benefit of the people who actually live there.
Russell from Clean Air Council, one of our organizers, is going to talk about coal for a minute.
Yeah, Diane already mentioned this, which is really cool, but like the whole reason why all this is here is because of coal in Pennsylvania. And there's two big companies, the Reading and Pennsylvania Coal Company, and then the Lehigh Company, which started around 1810. Oh, it started in 1791 and was doing all their stuff through canals. And then in the 1810s, I think 1828, they built a high wire bridge that could get stuff out of, it was Summit Hill, Pennsylvania, and Summit Hill, PA, and what was the other one? Oh, and Carbon County, very aptly named Carbon County, was where all this coal was coming from. And this was the, straight down here is the Reading Coal Wharves. And this was, I can't stress how wide the railroad tracks were to separate. You could do, they could fill 100 ships at once from the piers, boats in the water, piers about 40 feet high, and just pouring the coal straight into there. So you had 20 wharves, and it was a 49-acre plot, which to me is insane. And you'll see as things sort of started to get streamlined towards, before it busted out in the early 20th century, they started consolidating, because like down Lehigh Avenue, Tulip and Lehigh, American and Lehigh, Frankfort and Lehigh, Lehigh and Kensington, Lehigh and Aramingo were just yards and yards and yards and yards and yards that split off with trains you could come and fill up. There's also coal yards on Broad Street, Washington Avenue, or Washington Avenue in South Philly. At one point, before it got streamlined, you could go to Pier 20 and fill your freighter up with coal. But then as sort of Reading and Lehigh really compressed, they really centered all their operations here and started bringing the coal yards closer once they got better at loading them up, and the wharf itself became a coal field.
But yeah, one of those decisions was made a long time ago when they built the highway, was to build it directly down the middle of Montevich. So this part is now bisected in the middle by I-95. On one side of it is playground.
asphalt they have now, we'll put a crusher here, which will do open air crushing and reduction of that particles to break it down into a matter that they can recycle into new construction matter.
Right next to the grade school.
Grade school's right here, less than 100 yards away.
We'll pass it on the way out. And you
Plus the
notice, like,
houses, but like I said, in Port Richmond you have that luxury of 95 and that barrier between residential and industrial. Bridesburg don't have that luxury. Bridesburg has been plagued with industry from the beginning of it, where the Bedford Ross Bridge is, all the way around to the mouth of the old Tacony, or the old Frankfort Creek, where the Roman Haas is. There's never been an actual access to the river for the public to enjoy along this neighborhood.
and if you look behind us, this is our industrial access road, which is a neighborhood street.
Which is the old Koki site. This used to be a smelting plant back in, up until what? When was the last time the operation held?
87. 88.
88, 89?
88 is when they have the cleanups finished. 82 is when it started.
Right. So the EPA pretty much closed them down because of the emissions coming from the property. 64 acres of empty land between the houses and the river.